Hey, there we go. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. Tonight is a very, very special night for myself and a very early morning for Mr. Zarak Bartley over there in Barcelona. It's about 1:30, 1:40 in the morning over there. So I appreciate you being on. I'm so excited to dive into this conversation, and I'm so excited to just dive deep into the student mind, right? I'm graduating in March. Zarak is a fourth year Barcelona chiropractic student, and he has tons of knowledge that he's gained from his experience at Barcelona Chiropractic College, but also just, delivering value from the student perspective, because a lot of times I'll bring on docs who have been out for a while, right? 20, 30 years. And it's kind of hard to talk chiropractic school, chiropractic education with them because they're not what we'll call in the trench with us, right? And so we're going to dive all into that. We're going to dive deep into it. And I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation. We're going to get fired up. We were actually just off camera talking a little bit. That's why we're a little late. And we were getting riled up ourselves just on, chiropractic, how awesome it is. But also, how do we get this message to the masses? And that's really a conversation we're going to have tonight. So stick around. We're going to go on a quick ad break to thank our initial sponsors. Zarak and I are going to share this all over the virtual world. And when we come back, we are going to be diving deep into the minds of two awesome, I'm including myself in that, chiropractic students. So we will be right back, everyone. To Inspire Women is the elite boutique coaching company for chiropractors who are looking to live life and run business in a way that is personal, unique, and authentic. They focus on business systems and money mindset mastery so you can pay down debt, be more profitable, and serve more people. Their goal is to empower you to achieve success by your own rules and your own definition. Head to toinspirewomen.com now because they know there's a better way. ChiroHD, superior cloud-based practice management software. ChiroHD is a user-friendly, all-in-one EHR solution built with one mission: to help you run your practice like a boss. Learn more at chirohd.com. Total Clinic Solutions is your go-to source for purchasing both brand new and refurbished chiropractic equipment, as well as phone support for repairs and maintenance. Call Derek and allow him to combine your wishes and his 23 years of chiropractic equipment expertise to find what's best for you and your patients at 704-622-4089 or head to totalclinicsolutions.com now. It's time that chiropractors look beyond spinal alignments and measure the nerve connections that keep our patients feeling strong and performing at their peak. CLA designed the Insight scanning technologies to transform exams and generate powerful reports that give practitioners the certainty they have been searching for. Learn how CLA has partnered with practices around the world by going to insightcla.com. Spinal hygiene products are designed to educate your patients on the importance of lifetime spinal care. To learn more about how spinal hygiene products work and to download the patient education material for free, visit spinalhygiene.co. Again, that's spinalhygiene.co. Easily share your passion for chiropractic and look good doing it with Above Down Apparel, offering a premium lineup of principled apparel that's impossibly soft, sustainably sourced, and chiropractic AF. Visit abovedown.co and follow them on Instagram to learn more and score yourself some sweet chiro swag. Sked is the all-in-one system that allows for amazing control and flexibility of your scheduling. Yes, your next new hire. Every aspect of when and where you service your customers is at your command. Sked is tightly integrated with your existing EHR system. This software was made by a chiropractor specifically for chiropractic. No joke. Go check out their latest care plan feature by heading to go.sked.life/legendarypod. Dr. David Tuhill is an innovative product and marketing strategist, bridging the gap between your vision and strategic plan. He will help you design specific products and processes that are both scalable and set up to produce long-term revenue and growth. He has previously worked with influencers that include Dr. Josh Axe, Jordan Rubin of Ancient Nutrition, Olympic gold medalist Shawn Johnson, and many, many others. Schedule your call with Dr. Dave today by heading to meetwithdrdave.com. Training the best adjusters on the planet, Syntropy has reverse engineered what the masters do naturally. From the energetics to the mechanics, they've hacked the code to shorten your learning curve on the road to masterful adjusting. To find a seminar near you, head to syntropychirotraining.com. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Awesome, everyone. Welcome back to the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. We are live with DC2B Zarak Bartley. He's out in Barcelona and attends Barcelona Chiropractic College and is in his 4th year out there and is absolutely crushing it and doing his very best to get out there, serve the masses, not only with chiropractic and his clinical skills, but also with his voice, because he has his own chiropractic YouTube channel, and he's rocking and rolling, interviewing docs, interviewing fellow students, and getting this message to everybody that needs to hear it. So Zarak, without further ado, my man, please introduce yourself, share your story of chiropractic, how you got into this profession, what drew you in, and why did you stick it out?
Man, I'm glad to be on here. It's like the Avengers are teaming up or something. You said that you've had chiropractors on that are like 20 or 30 years in practice, but you should have said none of those were available. So unfortunately, Zarak's here. For anyone that's listening, don't worry, I haven't heard of you either. As for getting involved in chiropractic, basically, I've spoke about it on other podcasts, but I'll do the TLDR basis. I was about 19, and I knew that I had to be self-employed. I'm sure it'll come as a massive shock to you, Johnny, but I don't respond well to employers and being told what to do, which culminated in basically sitting in my car crying after I'd been sacked from Domino's. Which was a pretty low moment in life, and I was like, where do I go from here? And I was like, well, the first step is I need to be self-employed, but in what? And at the time, actually, my mum's a nurse, so she was working an accident and emergency, and because you're lifting people and you're in all these awkward positions, she basically herniated a disc in her neck and was not able to go to work. She'd have these terrible like blackout migraines, and of course there was just a chemical grenade cocktail of all kinds of drugs that was just thrown at her. She was off work for a long time, no quality of life basically. And this went on for a little while until at the time a chiropractor had moved into my dad's work. My dad's the manager of a leisure center, like a sports center you guys would call it, I guess. And he basically wanted a space to rent. And my dad was like, well, we don't have any room, but we have like an old cleaning cupboard, you know. I guess if we took all the stuff out and we gave it a lick of paint, maybe you could get a bench in there and I'll charge you. And it was like a really cheap price, you know. So this chiropractor was like, oh, you know, I really appreciate it. To say thank you, bring your family along. And I didn't really know what to expect about it. But I saw my mum go from no quality of life, being off work, and within a couple of adjustments, she was almost completely back to normal, and now she's just under maintenance care. So that kind of planted the seed, and I thought, okay, well, you know, that's a good way to be self-employed, and you're helping people, and it looks really interesting. I started shadowing him. I shadowed my local chiropractor. I became a CA, and then somehow stumbled my way into BCC and haven't shut my mouth since.
Oh, I love it, dude. I love the sequence of events that went down, right? It all started from this firing at Domino's and just, you know, sitting. But sometimes it takes those realizations in life to really be like, you know, come to peace with yourself, and it's a struggle, right? And it's like, holy crap, where am I going, right? And I'm really glad that chiropractic found you, or that you found chiropractic. And I like how Travis Corcoran puts it, Dr. Travis Corcoran, and he always says, you know, chiropractic didn't really choose you. You chose chiropractic. You know, you have to have a loud voice in this profession. You have to stand up for people. You have to stand up for people's health, and you have to lead them to a better life and lifestyle, right? And it doesn't take any public Joe Schmo to do that, right? It takes somebody with some courage and pride and putting aside their own ego to really help somebody else benefit from chiropractic care. So I think that's exactly what happened in your case. I love your story. And I also want you to introduce where you're from. Where are you originally from, so people understand where the accent comes from and everything like that, because I think people are like, wait, that's not a Barcelona accent.
Basically, I'm from a small town called Larne, which is in Northern Ireland, which is why I have this ridiculous accent that probably nobody can understand. If I speak too quickly, I say this in my talks, I say this in my charlas when I'm recruiting patients. I'm like, when I talk about chiropractic, I get excited and I tend to get ahead of myself and I'll speak really quickly. If that happens, just like spam the comments like, okay, slow down, calm down, take a deep breath, get a sip of water, and eventually I'll calm down. I apologize in advance if there's any swearing, but you have to understand that in Northern Ireland, the word fuck is about as common as the word the. So it's just imprinted in my DNA, and one or two might slip out. I apologize in advance. I know it's a family show.
Yes, that's all good. Yes, the kids, the mothers and the fathers and the whole families are sitting around watching their tellies right now, and
it's like a Saturday night special. It keeps all the chiropractors away from the drugs and the gangs and the violence as we come and watch the Legendary Chiropractor show.
There it is. I love it. Stay off the streets, kids. Go watch the Legendary Chiropractor. I love it. All right, so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. We're live with Zarak Bartley. He is a DC2B at Barcelona Chiropractic College, and he just shared his story on how he got into chiropractic. Tonight, we're going to talk about a variety of topics, but mainly those that focus on chiropractic students and what that looks like for chiropractic students, not only where to start, but also that journey that you go on as a student, all these different decisions that you have to make, all of these, philosophical decisions and adjusting decisions and science decisions. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to break it down, make it simple, hopefully easy to understand, and really start applying it yourself, right? Because we don't want to make any decisions for you. What we want to do is kind of say, hey, here's where we're coming from. And if you resonate with that's great. Let's rock and roll. Let's be on the same team. Let's bring chiropractic to the masses. And that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. So number one, we're going to talk about chiropractic and studying chiropractic in Europe, specifically at Barcelona Chiropractic College, where Zarak is. We're going to talk about the importance of philosophy when entering student clinic, but also how to really harmonize the philosophy, the science, and the art to be the best chiropractor you can possibly be. And also, last but not least, we're going to talk about Chiroeurope and what that seminar includes, why chiropractors in Europe should be attending this seminar, and even in the United States. I know Dr. Brad Glowacki spoke there either last year or a couple years ago, but you got to get to this event. It's absolutely critical, and it's actually coming up in April, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So, Zarak, let's start. Number one, studying chiropractic in Europe. What does that look like for people? How do they get involved in studying chiropractic in Europe, and what should they be? What are some warning signs for them to either steer clear of and or jump all in Europe specifically?
Well, I love what you said there about we're going to expose you to as many different points of view as possible and allow you to make the choice, right? And that's the key thing that I think a lot of schools are missing. So I was basically a CA. I was a CA, and I had my intentions set on a school which I'll not name because it's not the point of this show is to badmouth people in other schools, even though they may be trash. But I was basically set on this school, and whenever my mind's set on something, it's very hard to change it, right? But I'm in a seminar for the CAs, and there was another chiropractor there, and she was like, I really think that you should go and check out Barcelona. And I'm like, no, I've got my sights set. I'm going to go to this place. And she's like, no, really? You go. It's the world's first bilingual chiropractic college. I really think you should go and check it out. And I'm like, no, thanks. Like, I don't really fancy going and learning Spanish. Like, it's weird. I'm just going to stay in this system. And she's like, okay, here's the thing. There's a seminar there called Chiroeurope. Chiroeurope was in Barcelona at the time. She's like, I will pay your flights, I'll pay your ticket to Chiroeurope, and I'll find you accommodation with a student. If you still decide that you don't want to go, that's fine. We'll leave it at that. So what I did was I went to Barcelona, went to the seminar. First of all, it's Spain and everyone's hugging. We don't do that in Northern Ireland. We're not huggy people. We barely hug our family, right? I go, everyone's happy, they're smiling. I hadn't seen that very much before because we have the weather over there, but over in Spain everyone's smiling and they're hugging each other. So I'm like, okay, this is a little bit weird. Chiroeurope, I go and I'm like, okay, this is an amazing cult seminar. We're not allowed to call them cults. And I just basically got into this momentum and started meeting different people. Eventually, while I was there at the seminar, I actually ended up having my interview to go to the school. Now, bear in mind at this stage, it's still a prospective idea that I'm thinking of in my head. But Adrian Wemban, our principal, our captain at the helm, our noble leader, he basically sat with me and he was like, okay, look, here's the thing. Our mission is to expose you to as many different ways of practicing chiropractic as possible, and then you can pick, the word you used was what resonates with you. What resonates with you, and then you can, we don't want cookie cutter chiropractors. We want you to be exposed to everything and then pick your own style. And that really resonated with me. What happened was that then I went to this other school. And, I had all the applications filmed. I went to the interview, and the whole interview was I think it was like a 1 hour interview, and there was 2 guys there, and the interview kind of went like, oh, well, it says here that you're a prospective student for the Barcelona college. And I'm like, yeah. Well, why would you think about going there? Well, I think it's a good school. They give you many different options. They expose you to many different ways of chiropractic. Oh, well, we really wouldn't recommend you to go to that school because they're using the term subluxation and they're not evidence-based and da-da-da-da. And they spent the whole interview basically trying to convince me not to go to this other place. So what am I going to do? As soon as I came out of the interview, I'm like, I'm definitely going to that place now. So I went in. It took me a couple of years because I did a degree. I finished a degree in sports coaching and I wanted to finish it before I went on to this other thing. And while I'm doing that, I'm trying to save the money, to pay for a bit off the fees. I started personal training. I started boxing coaching and just saving as much as I could. So I waited a couple of years until I went. So I went and as I said, it's the world's first bilingual chiropractic college. So our curriculum, it's in English and in Spanish. So the way it works is, let's say I only speak English and you only speak Spanish. In our first year, if the class is in English, I'll have it in my mother tongue, and you'll have a headset on, and there's translators at the back of the room that are telling you what's going on. So you've got that for first year. It's a pretty unique system. Mm-hmm. Second year though, you're on your own. So I show up here, with my suitcase, and in my naivety and arrogance. I had a book, it's over there somewhere, and it's called Fluent in 3 Months. And I genuinely believed, I was like, I'm going to speak Spanish, and in 3 months, I'm going to be completely fluent. None of it's going to be a problem. I'm still not fluent. I'm in my 4th year now. I can kind of communicate, but I'm not fluent. And basically, I remember one time a guy, he was trying to help. He wasn't trying to be a bully or anything like this. But he said to me, he's like, oh, hey, I'm going to have a dinner party at my house. If you want, you can come over. We have some dinner. And the people I'm inviting, none of them speak English. So it's sink or swim, like you have to speak Spanish. So in my arrogance, I'm like, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna learn Spanish this afternoon. And I go and man, I understand like 1 word in every 20. So I'm just sitting there having my wine, just trying to be friendly. And this guy comes in with a load of girls, big tall fella. And he seems like the leader. He seems like the leader of the pack. And in my head, I'm like, okay, he's the alpha male. So I go over to him and I'm like, hola, me llamo Zarak, tengo 23 años, because that's all I could say. And he says, hola, encantado. Now, for the Spanish speakers listening to this, you'll understand that encantado is just a Spanish word for nice to meet you. It's just like, oh, hey, Johnny, nice to meet you. But in my head, I've only been here for a week, and I'm like, guy's name's Encantado. So 15 minutes later during the lunch, my friend turns to me and he's like, oh, you know, do you understand anything that's going on? And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And with all the confidence and bravado in the world, I'm like, whenever Encantado over there said this, I understood this, and the whole table just erupted laughing, and I'm convinced they're still calling that guy Encantado. But I digress.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so funny. But yeah, it's all about tying in, and bringing in different perspectives, different exposures, different scenarios that you're exposed to in order to make a decision, right? Make the best educated decision that you can, but also follow your gut, right? Like, we can be super heady sometimes, and we can say, this is the way it is because it's got to be this way because this is what we have to back ourselves and blah, 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 blah. But sometimes it's got to be from the heart. Sometimes it's got to be from that gut feeling that you're like, this is where I need to be. Like what you said when you walked out of that interview with the other school, right? You were like, you know what I'm going to do? And probably in spite of that school, right? You were like, I'm going to go to the opposite school. But also when you were at that school and you were listening to this guy tell you, and the president over there tell you that, like, hey, listen, we want you to be open to all possibilities and then practice and be the chiropractor that you want to be, right? And that, in my probably opinion, resonated with you, and your gut was like, let's do this, right? And then you sat through that other interview and you were just like, I don't, now they're decreasing the value of their own school, and yep. It's making me want to go to this other school a lot more, which was Barcelona Chiropractic College.
Well,
so that's pretty cool.
The whole thing is that you build the tallest building in town by building the tallest building in town. You don't get the tallest building in town by building something and then ripping down everyone else's building until yours is the only one left. And in my head, I was like, okay, I want to be a chiropractor. And I'm going and looking at these guys adjust. And then I was going to this other place, and they were doing a whole amalgamation of many different things, many different modalities, all of which are fantastic. They're great, man. There's nothing wrong with physical therapy, and they had all the machines, and they had all the athletes coming in and doing the hand-eye coordination stuff, and they had an MRI machine, and they have all this great stuff. And I'm like, all that stuff's fantastic, but it is not chiropractic. I want to go and just be exposed to many different techniques of chiropractic, but it has to be chiropractic.
Yeah.
And just looking around and thinking, okay, well, what opportunities and what resources are available, and then looking at what we had in Europe, and I was like, okay, obviously this is the best place to be. This is the only place that you're going to learn the more pure form of chiropractic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And another good thing about the BCC is the teaching staff. If you watch my interview with Arnaud Bernier on YouTube, he has a good analogy where you've students coming out of school, maybe they fail in practice. Well, man, like, you have to make a living. I'm not going to take that away from you. You have to make a living doing something. So the natural thing to do would be go to a chiropractic college and start teaching. But then what happens is you've failure teaching failure, because it's like, well, I don't want my students to be better than me, so no, don't go to the seminar, and don't adjust this person because you might hurt them, and don't adjust an asymptomatic person because they don't want them to evolve past that. Not talking for everyone, I'm making a huge generalization, but that is the case in some of these places. Now, the good thing, which I'll always say about BCC, is all of the staff there are actually, as you said earlier, in the trench. Some people don't like that term because it's like a war thing. I love it. Fuck it. In the trench. These guys are in the trench. They don't necessarily have to be teaching. It's not a necessary income. Man, my third year neurology teacher, Jordy, he's one of the best functional neurologists in Europe. He has a successful practice. He does really well. He's really good at what he does. He has his own seminar that functional neurologists love to go to. Like, he doesn't need the income that he gets from teaching, but he loves it. All the technique teachers are in practice. In fact, it's probably a nuisance for them to come to the school. Like, if it was only about the money, they would make more money actually being in the practice,
Right.
but they're giving up their time because they care about something and they want to teach and they want to pass it on to the next generation.
Yeah.
And we have it's still a small school. We have like 120 students, and I think that little community that we have of just hardcore gangster chiropractors and some really motivated students, it just makes it such a magical place to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Zarak, we're going to take a quick break to thank some more sponsors. And when we come back, we're talking all about the importance of chiropractic philosophy and being able to juggle all three legs of that chiropractic stool that we talk about: philosophy, art, and the science. So when we come back, we're talking all about that. We will be back shortly. Every chiropractic clinic needs a compliance program. If you are not sure what that includes or why you need one, let Dr. Robin from RHDC Consulting help you build your chiropractic compliance. If you are ready to get started, head to robin-hale.mykajabi.com and let Dr. Robin guide you to the end result. Turnkey Practice is a chiro-focused full-service team. They are your administrative guidance through credentialing, lease agreements, and of course, office build-outs. They are there from start to finish, allowing you to focus on the marketing and building your patient base while they build your practice. Tailor-made for you. To get started, head to myturnkeypractice.com/legendarypod. Dr. Christy Wick is revamping the landscape of women's chiropractic coaching. With a focus on connection and congruence, she's on a mission to empower lady DCs across the nation to create bold, successful lives and practices their way. Get started today by visiting theilluminatedsquad.com. Imaging Services' primary business is chiropractic solutions. With over 45 years in the industry of helping chiropractors, Michael Tokash offers free consultations on building your business. In the past year, Imaging Services has installed over 100 X-ray machines and digital X-ray systems in over 42 states across the United States. For more, head to theimagingservices.com. The 56-day chiropractic boot camp, building badass female chiropractors who are instinctively successful. Head to 56daychirobootcamp.com/legendary for your free endless referrals cheat sheet now. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Awesome. All right, we are back on the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast with Zarak Bartley out in Barcelona, attending Barcelona Chiropractic College. We just talked all about that, and actually off camera, I asked him a question that I forgot to ask prior to the ad break, and the question was, what do you do as a student at Barcelona Chiropractic College when your native tongue is English and they remove the translators from you year two? What happens?
Well, you've got the translators in the first year, and after that, you're kind of on your own. The good thing is the slides are always in both languages. So you sit in the class. To this day, I have no idea what's going on in the class sometimes, but at least I always have the English slides to refer to. But the Spanish is getting there. I have patients now. I'm seeing patients in the clinic, and some of them do not speak any English. And although there may be some times where it's a little bit rough, you know, the heart is there, and we understand each other. We can make it work.
I love it. I absolutely love it. Now your goal is to do like a screening or some sort of, you know, promotional event in all Spanish for yourself, and that'll get you in some patients and stuff like that.
I've done Talk the Tech in Spanish, and the other day, Haig John, he has a podcast. He messaged me and he's like, hey, I've done an episode with him before in English, and he was like, hey, I want to do something for the Mexican chiropractors. Could you maybe come and introduce yourself in Spanish? And I was like, man, like I can speak Spanish, but not to the level that someone would want to listen to a podcast. But I'll do it anyway, you know.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So I had to ask that. That's hilarious, but at least you're learning chiropractic, and I think, you know, sometimes self-education where you know, you and I learn probably most of our podcasting experience and other than through live experience, right? Behind the scenes, it's self-education. It's hitting the internet, the research, and figuring out, how to best do this. What microphone's the best? How do you introduce someone? How do you have a conversation that flows well? How do you get content for, now 5 seasons of this podcast? Like, how do you get content for that long? And so it's just, constant self-education. And I think sometimes that's the best thing that we can do for ourselves, because it makes us better, and it actually makes us retain it a lot better than someone just kind of reading off a PowerPoint slide and us trying to regurgitate it onto a test. But so let's talk about the next topic here is the importance of philosophy when entering student clinic. First, talk about that, and then I want to kind of transition into the equalization and the balancing act that we have to do as chiropractic students with the art, the science, and the philosophy. But hit us with the philosophy going into student clinic here.
Well, the reason I was always interested in it, but it was only kind of end of second year, start of third year that I started going deep into it. I started listening to Sigafoos Weekly. I remember Sigafoos Weekly, so I've been immersed basically in the teachings of Sigafoos. I love how he's so straight to the point. He's so abrasive sometimes with people, and that's the key. Like conflict. I think a lot of us we try and avoid conflict at all costs, and when you do that, you become just kind of agreeable, and you don't become memorable really for anyone. Look, if you want, in my opinion, right, for what it's worth, from a student, I don't have my 30 years experience yet, but in order to be a successful chiropractor, you need to be able to withstand conflict on at least some level. If I go to bed at the end of the day, if I haven't had a conflict that day, I feel like I wasn't authentic. I try not to go 2 days in a row without having at least some kind of conflict with someone. But it's like doing your work up front, whether it's the work on yourself or getting very deeply rooted in the philosophy of chiropractic and what it is that we're actually trying to do. Think clearly about what chiropractic is to you, and it's just asking yourself the simple question, like, what kind of person am I? Like, what kind of chiropractor do I want to be? And who are the kind of people that are looking for that kind of chiropractor? And then filter through enough people that you will find that the people that are looking for exactly what you're providing.
Right.
But if you just try and please everybody, then you become more agreeable and you're not memorable at all.
Right.
And I think it becomes very disingenuous. People can sense it. It becomes very disingenuous. You can tell when someone's just putting on a facade for the approval of their peers, or the approval of all of the patients that may walk into the door, or even the approval of another profession that doesn't even concern us. Oh, maybe if I do this and I become a real doctor, as they say, maybe if I'm regarded as a real doctor, then the medical profession will accept us. Or maybe, sometimes I think with a lot of these guys that get too hung up on this and just try to please everybody, it makes me wonder about how I'm going to raise my own kids. Like, I better make sure that whenever I have kids, I'm going to tell them that I love them every day. Because sometimes you're on these forums and you read people and I'm like, dude, like, your dad just didn't tell you enough that he loved you, and that's why you have this sickening need of the sense of you need everybody to approve of you. I would have a very hard time, to be honest, to try and think of something that I give less of a fuck about than someone else's opinion of me that I probably don't even know. Maybe they're only on the internets, or maybe they're in another profession. Like, I would have to really consider, I'd have to really think hard about that. Screen hard. You don't have to, not everybody has to agree with everything that you're going to say. And that's the thing, like, I say to people in my talks all the time, like, I'm going to talk about it. If it resonates with you, great, let's get to work. If it doesn't resonate with you, you didn't lose anything, you didn't lose any money. But here's what I do, here's what I have to offer. If you think that we can help each other meet our goals, then let's go on this journey together. An example that I would use with you is, Johnny, you're a busy guy. You meet a lot of people. You meet a lot of chiropractors. Of the last 1,000 people that you met, how many would you consider to be like a good friend?
Very not many.
Like free?
Yeah,
Maybe 5.
I mean, probably 5 to 10, I would say.
Yeah. 5 to 10. It's certainly not 20.
Right, right.
There's probably 20 out of that 1,000 that it's like, if you went out to dinner with a friend and they brought along this other person, you probably wouldn't be a bad thing. You'd be like, oh, Mark's coming, great. But if you never saw Mark again, that would be just fine too.
Right.
You don't have to get on with everybody, and that's the thing that I think is kind of unique about us, is we're not trying to be all things to all people. And I think when people see that and they resonate with that authenticity, they like it, and they want to experience that. So don't try and please everybody, is what I would say.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I actually wrote down some points, and I think that last point that you just said, not trying to please everybody. And I think that's a lot of times where we get hung up in the profession, is we feel as if we have to please everybody, right? In order to be quote unquote that real doctor, we have to start doing this, or we have to do this, or we have to do that, or we have to add this to this. And it's like, it dilutes not only the message of chiropractic, but I would argue it dilutes the importance of chiropractic and the adjustment, and actually what that does for a patient, and what that patient's body is allowed to do when it receives that adjustment, right? So when we dilute it, it becomes this misconstrued public perception, and now we're backtracking, right? Like, we're trying to figure out how in the world we're going to better communicate our message as chiropractors to the public, because we've had so much of just this gravy bowl of crap, right? Like, and it's everyone's just trying to pick at different things, because we all, there's a certain piece of us that wants to be like other people, right? And wants to be like other professions. And that's not what we need to be fighting for. We need to be fighting for a separate and distinct profession.
The new shiny thing.
Exactly.
They'll always go for the new shiny thing that maybe it makes them for money or whatever. But if I was building a house, would I want a plumber for the plumbing, and an electrician for the electricity,
right,
and a painter for the painting? Or do I want just one guy that shows up and he's like, well, I do a little bit of painting on the weekends for some extra income, and sure, I can fit your kitchen, I'll do it, it'll be an alright job, it'll be a decent job, and yeah, roofing, like I did that once a couple of times, and I'll be able to throw something together for you. Or do you want the guy that's going to specialize?
Right.
And that's the thing, like, whenever I'm talking about mixing and selling supplements and being with the patient and rubbing on them, tugging on them, tap dancing for them, selling them magnesium, selling them the new, here's the CBD, this is the thing that you need. Like, I'm sure all that stuff is great, but if we could just specialize and just focus on what we're doing and keep it chiropractic, regardless of many techniques, I think we'd be in a much better position.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if we know for a fact that the body is self-healing, self-regulating, self-maintaining, right? But if we remove the interference that is within the nervous system through a chiropractic adjustment, and it gets that patient well, right? Wouldn't you just want to do that for people over and over and over again? Like, in my head, that makes the most sense, right? Why do I, like you said, like, there's nothing, and to be honest with you, like, yeah, we're all probably mixers, right? Because you eat healthy, right? You don't eat like garbage. You probably, you work out.
I eat like garbage, man. I gotta be congruent. My diet's the only part of my life where I'm like, no, I'm not being authentic there. I'm being quite a pussy in that aspect of my life, man. And I say that to the patients. I'm like, look, it's kind of rich if I give you diet advice, because I'm not eating well. I exercise, I sleep well.
Right.
I try and decrease my levels of stress, but that's the one area where I'm like, yeah, I need to
and that's okay, right? But we all have our things that we're like, okay, I'm gonna waste or spend, not waste, I'm gonna spend time, money, and energy going in these different areas of my life. Now, if you give out advice as a chiropractor because you know more than the average person does about the body, about anatomy, about physiology, about neuroscience, like all of this stuff, we know more than the average person. So if you give advice in some of these areas, yeah, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it shouldn't be the primary goal and message behind chiropractic. That's as simple as that. keep it simple. But also what you said earlier in your conversation we tend to spread ourselves too thin, right? And we tend to dive into all of these different things, and then all of a sudden someone shows up for you, the chiropractor, to get an adjustment, right? And then all of a sudden you're not able to provide that, right? Because you're too busy.
Go. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. You're like, I can tell you every supplement that you should be
Exactly.
taking. They're like, yeah, but can you adjust my pelvis? Bro,
yeah.
can't do that.
Exactly, right? Or you're too busy trying to do something with someone else or another patient or some other situation. And I get techniques are different, right? Techniques are different, and techniques should be different. That's why most people don't respond the same to every single chiropractor and every single chiropractic adjustment. Otherwise, nobody would have a job. The chiropractic profession wouldn't exist, and we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. That's why you need to know people who do different things and different techniques. But at the same time, chiropractic is at its heart a healing profession, and that's why it should be the number one, primary thing in healthcare, right? This nastiness that's in healthcare these days needs to go away. And that's one thing that we talked about at CalJam was like, we as chiropractors should be the absolute bottom of the pyramid when it comes to healthcare, right? Meaning not hierarchy, meaning we should be the largest, we should be the most utilized profession when it comes to not only musculoskeletal problems, but also different symptomatologies and those asymptomatic patients that come to you and want to just be well, right? You don't go to the gym only when you're feeling like crap. You go to the gym because it makes you feel good. Like, why wouldn't you continue to do that, right? And then we tend to spend our energy. Last thing, Zarak, before you can say something. I'm on a rant right now. But the last thing I want to say is...
Rant, go for it. Let it out.
The last thing I want to say is we spread our energy and we spend our energy in the wrong areas at the wrong times, right? I look at what's happening in Illinois and what's happening in California, what's happening in New York, and just the United States in general, what's happening in Australia and now Canada and Europe with like babies being adjusted and stuff, and with the USA with vaccines and everything like that. It's a nightmare. But at the same time, you have to figure out where you're going to spend your energy and how you're going to be an activist for this profession at its heart, at its core, and you have to speak for and with chiropractic, not against it, and not trying to be something that you're not. That is the biggest thing I have to say. So go ahead if you have anything to add to that.
Well, for me, like every chiropractor doing full spine, call it diversified adjusting, should be everyone's bread and butter, regardless of whatever technique that you do. In my humble opinion, right? You should all be able to adjust full spine diversified. So for me, in my head, I was like, until I'm able to do that, then there's not much point focusing on any other technique. I'd really like to go into Gonstead one day. I think Gonstead's pretty gangster, but for now, I'm just focusing on diversified. So the two approaches that I'll use for that, I'll go to MLS and I'll do a lot of syntropy as well. And until I'm able to adjust most of the population full spine, I think I'm getting there. I'm decent enough, but I still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
And we've a nice little tight-knit community of people with very similar values and goals in the school, and we just build each other up like that. I got a buddy there, Matthew. Shout out to Matthew, and he's a big guy. He's like 100 kilograms. Or 200 or 220 pounds for the American folk. Shout out to the American folk. And man, until I'm able to adjust him side posture comfortably, I don't think I've ever been able to adjust him side posture. Until I'm able to do that consistently on someone of that size, I'm happy enough. I don't need to go and do all the extra modalities until I'm doing that. And another good thing is, if say I'm having a day where my adjustment isn't where I would want it to be, one thing that I always try and do is I see chiropractors all the time and they'll put the blame, even subconsciously, onto the person. So if I'm adjusting you and maybe it's not my best work, I'll be like, oh Johnny, you're fighting me today a little bit. Oh Johnny, you're hard to adjust. Oh, this table's too high, this table's too low. No, like if I do an adjustment that I consider to be subpar, I'll say to you, be like, hey, I didn't really. That's not my best work. I have more training to do, and then you're putting it on yourself, and you're on that path to mastery, as they call it in MLS. And really, it's about getting centered in yourself. Again, the questions I said earlier, like, who am I? Really, who am I? Not who my mommy wants me to be, not who my daddy wants me to be so I can get approval. Who am I? What kind of chiropractor do I want to be? And then how do I invite the kind of people that I want to join me on this journey instead of being all things to all people? And then after that, you can enter clinic in a state of abundance because you're very clear on your boundaries and what your role is in contributing to this person's health. And then it's just after that, once you've got the mindset right and you've got who you are, your chiropractic philosophy and a good solid base of chiropractic philosophy, after that, man, it's just doing the work. Like, pick your technique, whatever technique it is, but get good at it. You know, like, and here we have you've probably seen on the social medias, the big foam dummy that we use here. Man, I'm hitting that thing all the time, side posture, because it was like my weak point for the longest time. You know, side posture all the time. Man, that thing's been hit more times than the caps lock on Billy D's laptop. I'm there, like, I'm going to upload a video to YouTube in a week or two, and it's basically, I set myself the challenge. It was 400 mock thrusts every 4 hours for 48 hours. So I'm filming it as like a video blog, you know, and I'm doing like a video blog as I'm going, and I'm there at like 2 o'clock in the morning doing 200 PIs on a foam dummy each side because I had nothing better else to do with my weekend that time. But yeah, it's just doing the work, and then once you're entering into the clinic with that level of authenticity, when you know that you've done the work, after that, it's easy. The patients can pick up on it because you're congruent. And it means that when you look them in the eye and you're like, hey, I can help you. I've done the training. I need you to follow this care plan and you're going to get good results. They go with it, man. It doesn't have to be hard as long as you've done the work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do want to pull a question. There's a question. It says, how can you involve more students / chiros into the philosophy? I'd like to kind of give my answer on that, and then I want you to kind of chime in as well. But I would say, you know, first of all, you don't have to necessarily, you know, go back all the way in time. If that's not for you, if you're not into the DDBJ, you know, green books and diving deep into that stuff, that's totally fine. But what is important is that you understand where the roots of chiropractic come from and then how they would apply them in today's day and age, right? So how do you surround yourself around the philosophy? You listen to podcasts not only like this, but you also start following people on social media. And as like Jim Chester likes to say, he's another podcaster in chiropractic, he likes to say, be social on social. So if you have questions about the history, join, you know, Dr. Simon's group, join, you know, Todd Waters' group, do things that make sense so that you're being involved in the history of chiropractic, because the history is where the root of the philosophy comes from. But again, you don't have to go and read every single freaking green book. But I mean, I would suggest reading Stevenson's to say the least, but you don't have to go and read every single green book that's out there, but you should understand where it comes from and how to better apply that information in today's day and age. Would you agree with that, Zarak?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to contrast what you said there. I would not encourage people to read the green books as a start off in chiropractic philosophy. I have not read a green book.
Yeah.
I will get to them one day. It's very, very heavy, and it's going to be very hard to get into that positive momentum and get into an upward spiral. There was a guy on one of these groups the other day, and he's saying like, yeah, I tried to read a green book. Chiropractic philosophy isn't for me. Man, like you went the hardest route. Like the ramblings of DD and BJ, genius and fucking crazy as they were, it's not the right place to start as a student.
Right.
You know, if people are looking to go to that, look at Sigafoos Weekly, go into the podcasts. There's a group as well, join Sigafoos Weekly on Facebook. I can send you like a month of it for free. Like that's all the free content. And then there's a paid program. I'll send you a month of it for free for you to check it out. And that's a really nice way where the philosophy is basically being taken by someone who understands it and translated into normal people language for us muggles that haven't read the green books yet. So go that route. Message me on Facebook, Zarak Bartley, or shameless plug, send me a message on Instagram. It's RCD Zarak, RCD Zarak, and I'll tell you the easier ways to get into chiropractic philosophy. But man, I would really disagree in just jumping into the green books. That's heavy stuff.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That's what I was saying at the beginning is like, you don't have to dive into the green books, but it definitely is like, it's something that people kind of look at as like, oh, that's our philosophy and that's it. That's not true. That's definitely not true. There's many ways to get chiropractic philosophy. Like you said, Sigafus Weekly. There are podcasts like this, and there are plenty of people on Facebook and Instagram that you can follow and really start tapping into some of this stuff and start following political organizations as well, right? Because political organizations are going to typically align with one philosophy or another. So you should definitely find one that resonates with you and start learning how to get more involved in the chiropractic philosophy that way. So yeah, definitely don't just like go nose deep into green books. That is not recommended at all. And I'm sorry if I misspoke there, but definitely don't do that, but also know that they're there as a resource as well if you are interested in going that far. But like you said, they're heavy content, and it's kind of like so abstract sometimes, and it's just them rambling sometimes, and it's hard to follow. So
I've never read it in any great detail, maybe a couple of pages, but what I have done is I've sat in seminars with people much more intelligent than I am, although that's not particularly difficult to have that accolade. But anyway, I'll sit with people that have gone through it and understand it, and they can translate it and speak it to a way that you or I would be able to easily understand,
right.
And there's other resources that you can use to go to that. And then once you've got a good solid base, one day I will start on reading the green books, but for now it's too heavy, and there's other resources that you can use.
Yeah, and I would also say that your school, if you're at a chiropractic school, if you're a student, you can also get involved in the club, the philosophy club on campus, whatever that looks like for your school. I know
if you're allowed, if you're lucky enough to go to a school that allows you to have a
absolutely club. Right, absolutely. So if you're looking and you're craving for chiropractic philosophy, you can definitely find chiropractic campuses that do have philosophy clubs on them, where they meet each week and they talk either about a green book or about some sort of principle or some sort of message of chiropractic of how we can better communicate it. But also you can go and find and seek out off-campus philosophy groups as well. I know there are a lot of doctors around different schools that put on philosophy nights, and I know there's like one called Band of Brothers at Life University that's even off campus. We have one on campus and we have one off campus. So that one, the off campus one, doctors are at, and people of the public are at, meaning more doctors and sometimes patients and stuff. So that one's really fun. But yeah, you just try to get involved in your school as much as possible, and if that doesn't offer you the solution that you're looking for, reach out to Zarak or I, and we'll try to find what would work best for you or something in that area for sure.
An interesting thought on that. I spoke to an IFEC student. IFEC is there's one in Toulouse and there's one in Paris, and they were talking about the green books, and they were like, yeah, we used to sell those on campus, and then the school stopped us from selling those on campus. So they have to go off campus to sell copies of the green books. It's like a drug deal. You go up to the first year students, or quarters as you guys call them. I've never understood the quarter system. But yeah, you guys go over and you're like, hey, over to the new people, the fresh meat, like, hey, you want to buy some green books? There's a joke in there somewhere. You want to buy some green?
All right, Zarak, let's talk about, now we got the philosophy, right? How do we balance the three-legged stool of chiropractic, right? How do we really balance that, and what does that look like for us, right? So we got science, philosophy, and art, right? And I always like to say we need to kind of harmonize those, but we need to balance and juggle them correctly in order to not put too much time, money, and effort into one thing, because that's where we get into trouble, and I think that's where a lot of disagreements come from within the profession as well. So you have your super art people that are like, adjusting's the most important thing, adjusting's all you should do, you should only adjust people, don't understand anything about the body, just adjust. And then you have people that are like, super sciencey.
Those guys, huh?
Then you have people who are super sciencey, and and have, all the science, all the research, all the data, all the analytics, all the everything that happens in your body that we know about in a binder, and then they throw it at you before you get adjusted, if you ever get adjusted on that visit, right? So those are those people. And then we also have the people that are super philosophically minded, right? That are either vitalistic, or they're mechanistic, or they're salutogenic, or they're this or that, or whatever you want to call it. And they're just there to argue with emotion, passion, and what have you, right? And so how do we best balance, as a chiropractic student, how do we best balance all three of those legs? Talk to us.
Man, when I figure out how to do it, I'll let you know. If I was to say it to my younger self when I was entering college a couple of years ago, I'd probably say, start going to seminars, go to a couple of seminars. Don't go to everything. Go to what resonates with you, pick up a little bit here and there. For me, it was MLS, Syntropy, this kind of full spine adjusting. If for you it's Gonstead, go to that. With the science, do what you're being told to in class. And yes, you should have a passing interest in the research. But the thing is that the research is really good and it's a really nice tool, but don't let it paralyze you. Some people let it be paralyzing to them, and it's like what you mentioned Travis Corcoran earlier. Now, I can't claim credit for this analogy, so I got to give credit to Travis, but I thought it was a really good analogy. And basically, it's like, if you have a spectrum, okay, you have a spectrum with something that's controversial. So let's say it's mechanistic, vitalistic, vaccine, anti-vaccine, abortion, pro-choice and pro-life, okay? Any kind of spectrum. The people that are right on either edge of the spectrum, where it's black or white, these guys only talk to each other. So what he said was it's like an echo chamber. So they only talk with people that share the same viewpoint, and anyone that challenges them is the enemy. Now, in the middle, you've got the people that don't really have a choice or have an opinion. But when you come from the middle and you go towards the other side of the spectrum, that's where the interesting stuff happens. Because generally what these guys will do is, if you've one person one end, one person the other, they've done enough research that they can argue points for and against their side and the other side, but they've come to their logical conclusion. And normally those guys will be able to sit with each other and have some kind of an intellectual conversation without getting their emotions all up into it. So that was a really good analogy. So as I say, yes, the research is good, but I think some people let it paralyze them too much, and they haven't worked on the art and the philosophy. And when I say philosophy, I mean like working on themselves and getting centered within themselves, as well as chiropractic philosophy. And then by the time they get to the clinic, they've got all this science and they don't know how to adjust. So they can diagnose you with this and that, and they know every tract. They know every tract of the spine. But then when it comes to actually adjusting a PI, they're like, I'll just use some other modalities. I'll not name anything because I'll get a load of triggered people in my inbox. And I have enough of them already. I get some weird messages, man.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right, though. It's really fascinating, and I like Travis, when he was on the show, he gave that same analogy, right? But you also, on those, either side of that spectrum, you have your loudest voices, right? And the people with reason, like you said, and logic are here, right? And then you have the people that typically don't really say anything, but you have your loudest voices out here. No matter if that's, the anti-vax or the pro-vax, you'll always hear both of their voices, but they're not necessarily speaking with intellect or, data or logic or reasoning or anything of that manner, but you have to kind of come in a little bit and start having the conversations in here, right? And with those people, we tend to see this agree to disagree kind of thing happen, and that's where progress can be made. And I think that's really, really cool, and I think that's a really important point that you brought up. So I appreciate you saying that. And I also want to say, for the super analytical people, the super science people, the super research-minded people, that, science is always changing. Science is always evolving. That's the point of science, right? Like if it weren't changing, if it weren't evolving, we'd still be back in D.D. Palmer world and land, and no one would have questioned anything, right? But the reason we question things is because we get new data, we get new science, we get new research, but it should not be held to the gold standard. And that's where what you said was great was, yeah, you need the research, but don't get paralyzed by it. Yes, you need philosophy, but also tap into who you are. Tap into your own person, who you are when you're serving patients and what that really looks like and how that will resonate with you. What technique is it? What does your ideal client or patient look like? What kind of population are you serving? What technique are you doing? And now that segues me into the art, right? What technique are you doing? And if you're going to be passionate about a technique, go all in. Or like you've done, right? I want to be good at adjusting people full spine diversified. I want to be really good at that. Then do that, right? It's a general, more over umbrella all-encompassing technique that allows you to do a lot of different things off of it. So it's a really great foundation and umbrella to be under. But that helps you with this triangle, or I'm drawing a circle with my hand, but it helps you with this triangle of the art, the science, and the philosophy, and how to kind of juggle all three of those without getting too overwhelmed in one way or the other. And then you can't have a serious or great debate or conversation with another chiropractic student and or chiropractor, right?
An interesting point on that. A couple of weeks ago, I had a guy come in. He's a geriatric, right? And he'd been to another chiropractor, and I was like, okay, so why are you here? Like, how did you find yourself, in this sala? And he's like, well, basically, I went to this chiropractor, this guy like with a white coat, and it just wasn't what I expected it was going to be. He tested me and tested me and tested me and tested me, and then diagnosed me with this and that and the other thing, and then just did like a little bit of massage and all this stuff. Like it's not what I expected. He also told me that this guy told him you have to. He's a very active old guy. He loves being out and doing things. He's like, he sat with me and he says, the guy told me I have to stop cycling, I have to stop swimming, and I have to stop going hiking in the mountains. You're not going to tell me to do all that, are you? And I'm like, no, man, like I want you to keep moving as long as you're moving, doing the right things. But, what's going to happen is you're going to come here twice a week, get adjusted. We're not going to worry too much about the symptoms. We can talk about it a little bit, but it's not our main focus. If you're here for 6 weeks or so, chances are by the end of the 6 weeks, something's going to improve. I didn't get paralyzed by all the analysis and stuff. Obviously, you got to make sure you're being safe. If you don't know what you're about, you got to study until you know what you're about. But after that, it's like, hey, he just needs adjusted. He just needs a bit of help. And the 6 weeks went by, and then he lives in Luxembourg. He was over here to visit his son. 6 weeks went by, he came in, it was like a completely different person. This grumpy old man that came in, really judgmental, really kind of hating chiropractic. He came in, he gave me a hug. He's like, thanks for all your help. Not all of his symptoms had even gone away. He wasn't completely symptom free, but he was delighted. It certainly helped him. Like he understood the value in it.
Yeah.
But that was, yes, got to know your science. You got to know what you're about. Okay. So don't people be getting triggered and messaging me saying, you don't care about the science. I do. Research is great. Heidi Havoc is gangster. She's awesome. We're glad to have her.
Yeah.
The science is great. The philosophy you need to be grounded in. You need to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we came from, the history, even though not all of the history is great, know about it, or at least be able to have a conversation about it, and then actually be able to move the bone.
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, but you can't move the bone. See, I can't be diplomatic to everybody. He said, "Move the bone."
Yeah, this ought to blow up. It'll be great. It'll be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait. So we're gonna take our last ad break, and then when we come back, I want to talk all about Chiroeurope Seminar, when it is, why people should go, and then we'll close the show out. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Dr. Stu Hoffman, founder and president of Chiro Secure Malpractice Insurance, is the foremost expert in both risk management and risk avoidance. Understanding the everyday challenges of today's practicing chiropractor and the current public perception of chiropractic has made ChiroSecure the fastest growing malpractice insurance program of the last 28 years. Find out more at chirosecure.com. The IFCO is here to support you. Whether you are a chiropractic student, doctor of chiropractic, chiropractic organization, or member of the public, the International Federation of Chiropractors and Organizations is here for you. They recognize and support your right to practice and receive vertebral subluxation-centered chiropractic care and are here to ensure that right and spread access to that care throughout the world. Head to ifcochiro.org/legendary for more. Be sure to give our friends over at Chiro Hustle a listen. They are bringing together some of the biggest names in the profession and learning from the greats. Chiro Hustle creates a safe space where chiropractic leaders share their stories and their passions with the world. Let's get hustling by heading to chirohustle.com now. Thank you for allowing this brief disruption to take place. And now back to the program. Sweet. The Legendary Chiropractor Podcast is back. I'm your host, Johnny Reuter, and we are live with Zarak Bartley out in Barcelona. And we are talking all tonight about chiropractic students and where we're really at as a profession from a student perspective, right? And I think that's really important because a lot of times students, our voices aren't really heard, but at the same time, a lot of people kind of write us off as not knowing much or whatever, but we've been in this profession, or in the school realm for 3.5, 4 years, maybe sometimes longer than that, right? And so it can be pretty rigorous, and it's not okay to lose the end goal of becoming a chiropractor. It's not okay to lose that vision of becoming a chiropractor and going out and serving the masses through chiropractic. So Zarak and I have broken it down a little bit to kind of help reignite your passion, help you, drive some points home about how we can start balancing some of this life, school, professionalism kind of work. But last but not least, Zarak, we're going to talk about Chiroeurope Seminar. And we know we talked about it at the very beginning of this conversation and how it's a great seminar and how you attended it and everything like that. So talk to us a little bit about your experience again, and then tell us why we should go. And I'll drop the dates and the link below here.
Well, Chiroeurope, I'm not affiliated with Chiroeurope in any way. I just think it's a really cool seminar, and I think people should know about it. I've been going for years. I've been going since I was 19. I just turned 27. The people at Chiroeurope, I've grown up with them. They know the real me. I'm still a student, but whenever I graduate, there's no amount of success that I can have that I'll ever be able to have any kind of ego, because the people at Chiroeurope will just be like, shut up, man. Like, we remember when you were 19 and you couldn't afford food tickets for the restaurant and the hotel, and some of us had to spot you for food tickets or a room if I haven't booked a room and I have to walk around like, can anyone lend me some space? Does anyone have a spare bed in their hotel room? So these guys, they know the real me. And the reason I keep going, it's like we suffer from an incredible amount of social conditioning, okay? And we're always told, like, okay, don't speak too loudly, be agreeable, sit there. Don't play on the grass. Don't stand up and shout. And really, what the thing is, you need to be with some people that are able to give you a kick up the ass and say, yes, it's okay to be a little bit abrasive. It's okay to get in some people's faces and say, here's what I deliver, here's what I don't deliver. I locate spinal subluxations, I correct the spinal subluxations, and I get out of the way and let the power that made the body heal the body of any disease known to man. All right? And they stand and they'll give you the kick up the ass that you need. And really, the reality is people need to see that this reality is much closer than what they've been told by their school, by their mommy, whatever it is. Like, go and speak to the people that are actually breathing it and being very authentic and they're congruent with it. And it's you build like a little tribe, people of the same values and goals that you can build your life with and offer value to each other and grow together because you're on the same path. It's getting in and really just getting that kick up the ass and seeing why we're doing what we're doing. You know, I'm sure everyone listening to this, if you've got this far in a podcast, you probably love chiropractic. There's probably a lot of love in your heart for chiropractic, no matter how you practice it. Well, love is great, but you're going to need some courage as well. And this is where you go to get the juice, to get filled up on your courage. If you don't know how to find it, you know, grab between your legs and squeeze. Even if you're a woman listening to this now, just grab between your legs and squeeze. We need more of that in the profession. We need more courage in the profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going I just went and spent a week in California, attended Cal Jam. It's the biggest chiropractic conference of the year in the United States, at least. And it's really cool because it is what, you know, some of these docs say, and it's a place to get the fuel kind of dumped on your fire, right? Like if you're passionate about chiropractic, or even if you're not, like I like how you said that, right? Even if this isn't practiced at your school, or even if the philosophy is not talked about, or even if, you know, some of these things aren't mentioned around your campus, there are places that you can go to find this information. And there are people, like you said, living it, breathing it, thinking it, doing it every single day. And they're loving their life, they're loving the profession, and they serve out of an abundance of their heart through and with chiropractic, right? And I think that's really important for us to see as chiropractic students. And it sometimes is really hard for us to get out of the school mind and, you know, the test-taking mindset and all of this stuff that's just piled and piled and piled on top of us. And then all of a sudden, now we have, you know, we're supposed to go attend a seminar for 3 days or 4 days or a week or whatever. And it's like, yeah, get out there, go introduce yourself, shake hands with people who are living the life that you hopefully intend on living. If it's what you resonate with. Again, that's the major take home. And the key here is the major key is you're being exposed to a lens that Zarak and I love, that we appreciate, and that we see chiropractic through. If it resonates with you, you can reach out to us at any freaking time, and we will give you the answers that you're looking for. But if it doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. Go find something that lights your fire. Like, go find something that you become extremely passionate about, because for Zarak and I know that's chiropractic. And so it's doing stuff like that really takes you out of the school and the student mindset and puts you in with the doctors and the people living it and breathing it every single day of their lives.
Yeah, if going and hanging out with those like-minded people doesn't excite you, it's okay, bro. Like, go and be a physical therapist. Go and be an osteopath. We don't mind. There's more patients for the rest of us.
Right. And I mean, and like you said, like-minded people, though, really, it's not to create what you said earlier in this podcast, the echo chamber kind of thing. But it is to kind of build your morale up of, I'm on the right course, right? I'm doing the right things. I'm around the right people, and I see success on my journey, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of times really important for us as chiropractic students, because we don't see the end result necessarily. And there is really no end result. It's all about the destination and the journey, or it's all about the journey, not the destination. But we get to see it in real time, real life, and we get to hear it from a stage, which I think is pretty cool as well. So go ahead.
If you're given proof by seeing someone do something that you didn't think was possible, you're a lot more likely to believe that you can do it too.
Right.
The reason that a lot of people believe that this stuff isn't possible with chiropractic and that we have a very limited scope is because they've never been exposed to what is actually possible. They've never seen it. So of course they're not going to believe it. But if you can get over your short-term emotions, gain some positive reference experiences by listening to these other people telling you what's possible, whether it be at the dinner time or whether it's from the stage. Sometimes the most valuable conversations and interactions that I'll have at Chiroeurope, it's in the restaurant, in between seminars. It's not actually from the stage.
Right.
Get that information, get those positive reference experience, and that'll build you up into an upward spiral where now you're like, okay, well, if they can do it, they're a normal person just like me. I can go and do it too, and it gives you that belief. But you need to be getting around these people and seeing what's possible before you just say, okay, that's far beyond our scope, you know?
Right. Absolutely agree. Do you have any last closing remarks? Again, those dates for Chiro Europe are April 24th through 26th, 2020. I don't know if I've said it before, but I did say it was in April earlier on. But the exact dates are right there on the screen, 24th through 26th this year of April, and chiroeurope.com is where you can get more information. And like Zarak said, neither of us are necessarily affiliated with Chiro Europe. We just want to give you an outlet to go kind of see the expression of the life that, we think chiropractic should shine. And you can go see that at Chiro Europe. You can see it at CalGem. You can see it at Mile High. You can see it at all sorts of these different events. And I'm sure I'm missing quite a few out in Europe as well. But go attend it. See what it's all about. And if it doesn't resonate with you, that's okay. It's okay to have your own opinion, as do Zarak and I.
Yeah, I'm looking forward. I've only been really to the seminars in Europe. I've only been to America once, and it was for a family holiday. So I really want to start coming over to America for those seminars. I have a lot of people over there that I would consider myself friends with, even though I've never met them. So I would consider yourself in there, and Amber from Life, and Sarah Zwink, and Nicholas from Palmer. Like I speak to these guys, if not daily, then at least every other day. Like just a couple of message exchanges and just keeping in the loop. And I really want to get over to America, and I really appreciate you for what you're doing. I think you're doing great work over there, and I hope that one day soon we can share a beer and maybe make our own podcast live and have a ramble. And yeah, really appreciate you, man. And you've got a friend in me, bro.
I appreciate you, Zarak. I had a lot of fun tonight. It's a great time to be a chiropractor. Everyone out there, thank you so much for watching, and I greatly appreciate you. This is the Legendary Chiropractor Podcast. Stay legendary, my friends. I love you guys. Bye.